this video, we're going to look at creating an assignment. The first thing you need to do is be in your course where you want to add the assignment. The next step we want to do is click Add Materials and then click Add Assignment. This is going to give you the assignment creation window, and you're going to notice it has name, description, and then all these categories at the bottom. Any of them that have the blue star, they are fields that you're required to fill out. So for my name, I'm going to put in a sample. And then this description box uses what they call the rich text editor. But it basically is a spot where you can give the information about your assignment and maybe the directions that you want students to follow. You can type all of these directions in here, and then you could use any of these formatting tools to format that. You can use this little link button to highlight one of the words within your text and then hit the link button and add a link so it hyperlinks out. You can also use this insert content button and image and media to add media from your computer. Notice that there's a 100 megabyte file upload. So per file, you can upload any that are less than 100 megabytes. If you have large files, typically large videos is what this is going to be, you might want to upload them to something like Microsoft Stream, which we have through our Office 365 accounts if you want to keep it more on a private, limited basis. Or you could upload it to YouTube. And if you want it to be private, for the most part, you could probably keep it unlisted so most people are not going to find the link unless it's directly provided. But if you want to add one of those big video files, you could go from the web and here click Media. And you'll see that then it says link/embed. And so you can just paste that embed code right in there. So that's kind of options to use this box at the top. You also have the option at the bottom to add materials, so we can add files once again straight from our computer. Instead of being kind of in this area up here, this is going to appear at the bottom after all the directions or any information that's in this box is shown. These items will show at the bottom. So you'd have a file maybe copied to the bottom, a link that's separated and is at the bottom. You could pull from your resources on Schoology. And then you could also do an audio/video recording. And I will say that this video recorder changed just as earlier this morning, and by this morning I mean March 22nd of 2020. This was updated to an HTML5 recorder versus a Flash recorder. So you don't have to allow Flash, and students don't have to allow Flash to use this recorder anymore. But you can go through and just click and basically start your recording. That might be a great opportunity to give verbal directions or audio-visual directions for students that need it. I'm going to cover this OneDrive assignments piece in a different video, so I'm not going to dig too much here, but you could use that as well. You could set a due date. You don't have to. You can change points. It doesn't have to be worth any points, so you could say 0 here if you want. You can change that to whatever really point value that you want. Category. If you have grading categories set up, you just grab that grading category, or you could create a new one from scratch as you're going. You can also just leave it ungraded. So like I said, it doesn't have to be graded. From there, factor is like weighting. For the most part, people leave this at 1. If you have grading categories that already are weighted and syncing to Skyward, this really doesn't matter because that weighting will happen when it gets synced to Skyward. This next part, you have scale or rubric. So right now, if you're like 50 points out of 100, that's what they call that numeric scale. But you can also use a rubric, or you could use like a standards-based scale, so 1 through 4, and giving them a 1, 2, 3, or 4. But you could also create a rubric for the assignment and just have that laid out that you can grade by instead of a scale. At the bottom, you have some options here. You can individually assign it. So you could assign it to just one student. You just type in their name. You have the option to lock the assignment. So it locks on a certain date. So after that point, it won't accept submissions. Or you could lock it. You might have noticed you could lock it immediately. Your other option here is you could have submissions enabled or disabled. And this isn't quite the same as lock. If you have submissions disabled, then the students can't turn anything in. But I like to use that if I would have a lab or maybe a performance item, and I want to use a rubric for grading. It won't let me grade using the rubric until the student turns an item in. So if I disable the submissions here, then I can use that rubric without them having to turn a file in or do anything like that. The next button is publish. So right now at green, as soon as I create this assignment, students would be able to see it. If you're creating things like a week in advance or a few days in advance and you don't want students to see it, you could unpublish this and hide it basically from their view so they don't get distracted by it. Then when you're ready, you just edit the assignment and hit publish. You also have grade statistics here. By default, it's disabled. I usually leave it disabled because this is kind of like, how are you doing versus the average, things like that. Most students aren't too interested in this, so I usually leave it off. You also have comments, where if students have questions, they could post their questions in this comments section. With that said, though, I usually see the comments section being either misused, where students are just saying random things, or the students will copy and paste, like if they were supposed to write like a short paragraph of information, they'll copy and paste their paragraph of information straight into the comments, and then everybody sees what they wrote, and it's not actually turned in as a submission. So I usually just tell people to turn this piece off. That way you don't have either one of those situations happen. Once you're all done with that, you can hit create, and you have created an assignment. When that assignment shows up, you can always, I don't have any other materials, but you can always drag it and drop it around. If you open it up, over on this side over here, as students turn things in, you'll see the student submissions on the side. You also see this little button over here that's received, and you can see needs grading on time. If you put a due date in there, you'd see ones that are late. But usually that's kind of a quick way to just filter. If you need to find all the ones that still need to be graded, you can hit that needs grading and find that assignment. So that's just kind of a really fast overview of assignments just to get you started.